Good afternoon. Welcome to Erev Avraham Shira. We have a little Zohar here that's quite elevates our thought about the mundane things in life. It's talking in Parshat Yitro about raising the hands in prayer. Now, the Zohar gives us several examples where we raise our hands to guard ourselves, we raise our hands to signal somebody, and we raise our hands in excitement, in awe, in joy, and, of course, in prayer. Now, if I look around today, the modern experience I have of going to synagogues and going to the kotel and going to the graves of tzaddikim, very few people raise their hands in prayer. And the Zohar says very clearly here that when we raise our hands in prayer, we're making God great in the world. We're returning the glory to Hashem. See, by raising the hands is a natural impulse of the body when we're excited. And so you see the people, when they're excited at a football game and they score a goal or a touchdown, right? People raise their hands and holler because that's the natural state. The hands are like elevators of energy in the body, right? Because you have the head, the higher soul, the torso, the emotional soul, and then the legs, which is the physical or automatic soul, what we call nephesh. Right? So the hands are the only part of our body that can span all three. That means they can take energy from the lower places in our soul and elevate them all the way up to praise to Hashem. And so lifting the hands is a very deep thing. And it creates glory of Hashem. So why is it that we're embarrassed to raise our hands in shul? And I've even seen people called down for it. Why are you raising your hands in prayer? We don't do that here. I've heard that kind of thing. It's a little embarrassing. But okay, we'll get over that too. But the idea is it's a spontaneous gesture of exaltation of Hashem. It's not a part of a religious act, right? It's a spontaneous excitement that flows through you. Is that what we're after? And so what's furthermore very interesting about this idea of raising the hands and is the idea of the exaltation of teshuvah. That there's a level of teshuvah where I'm afraid I'm going to be punished. And there's a level of teshuvah where I'm afraid that I'm not going to get into the world to come. And then there's a level of teshuvah where, well, that's what we do because that's what everybody does because it's Yom Kippur or Rosh Hashanah. There's many, many motivators when it comes to the decision that I need to come back to God. I need to come back to Hashem. Where am I in the world? What am I doing with my life? Where have I gone? Where am I going? All these kind of questions are wrapped up in that idea of returning to Hashem. Now, of course, Shabbat is 3 letters, Shin, Bet, Taf. But we know that in the Kabbalah of the permutation of letters, Shabbat spells 6 words. Shabbat, Shat, Tabat, Shat, Bash, Tash, Tashav, Tabash. 6 words come out of 3 letters. It's 6 houses were made from those letters because each word is called a house. Why a house? Because a house is a place where you dwell. And when you create a word in Kabbalah, you're creating a dwelling place for an idea, for an energy. And when you do it with the holy letters, like Shabbat, you're creating the concept of Shav, Taf, Shabbat, and the resting. The resting is woven into the letters. Okay, so we look at Shabbat, and we can spell out Shabbat, Bashat, Tashav. Those 3 words together create a sentence that has value to us, a lot of value. On Shabbat, we feel Boshet, which is the second word I spelled out, Bet, Shin, Taf, Shabbat, Boshet, Tashav, which, if we want a translingual that phrase, those 3 words, without the proper vowels perhaps, it writes out the concept. On Shabbat, we have Boshet, which is shame. Wait a minute. I don't want to feel shame. Nobody likes shame. Shame is like A very hard concept in life, to feel ashamed, to feel embarrassed. But there is a higher shame, the shame of the glory of Hashem, the shame of the greatness flying past us all the time that we don't see, the shame that I miss the opportunity to talk to Hashem, the shame that His glory is embedded in all around us, and I just take it for granted and go about my day as if, the world is just a mundane, nowhere place in some far corner of the universe, and nobody cares. And it's not true. Because every moment is new, and every moment is expressing God's power into the world, pulsing. The name of God, one of the names of God is pulsing every 1.3 seconds. And that pulse never stops. And that's the pulse of the universe. And it's flowing through us. And every pulse is a new energy field of the infinite coming down through the links into the finite. And I'm missing it. And I feel embarrassed about it. That bullshit, that shame, is a very high level thing. And so when we further on, Chassidut teaches an amazing thing, that if we can return to God, not because of the fear of punishment and the fear of losing a reward and the fear of what people think of me, or because it even says it in a book, but we return because God is great. Just because He's great. It has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with my existence. The reality is that God is awesome, unbelievable, infinite, eternal, fantastic genius, creative being that's been putting this universe together for however long, longer than I can count. And all of us can count together. And when I come back to Hashem because of His greatness, you know what the rabbis say? They say that all the things we ever did that were wrong are forgiven. All the sins. It's like Yom Kippur, here and now, on this Friday afternoon. If I come back to God because of His glory, it's Yom Kippur. It's the Day of Atonement. It's the day of complete return. So then you see that Shabbat, Boshet, Teshuv, those three letters woven into a sentence, create an idea that if I could see the greatness of Hashem on Shabbat, then I'm going to automatically return to the one that I want to be with, to the one that I want to be with me and want to be with everyone. And so the Zohar comes along and tells us that we can make God's name great just by raising our hands because we feel that glory. Like you just want to raise your hands, and let it go. And it's not a touchdown. It's a cosmic moment. And this Parshat Yitro in the Zohar is all about the body movements of it, Jew and service, the raising of the hands, the bending of the head, the bending of the knees. And it's really like divine body language. That each of the moves that we make with our hands, when we lift them after we wash our hands, when we bow down in the Amidah, when we straighten up in the Amidah, all of it corresponds in the Kabbalah to the movements of energy that are happening through our body, from head to torso to legs, and from legs to torso to head, and from right into left into right, and also on the diagonals. Because if we had the spiritual eyes, we would see we're not two-dimensional realities. We're three-dimensional realities, but those three become six. And those six become 32. And it expands infinitely outward because we're part of what's infinite, forever expanding outward. So, it's a very interesting thing. It's a kind of a test, to be embarrassed when you go to the synagogue to raise your hands in prayer because you feel the glory. You don't want to be chastised he's one of those guys, right? But you want to be true to yourself. You want to be true to your exaltation, to the true greatness that you perceive. And the people that want to censor, they just don't know. They just haven't learned. They haven't looked at this Zohar. They don't understand. And then there are people that raise their hands in prayer and clap and holler at every prayer. And that's a tradition that they have in their group, and their part of Am Yisrael. But for all of us that are looking for our truth, our true experience with God, if we feel that urge to raise our hands in prayer, the Zohar goes on to tell us that it almost guarantees that God's going to hear you, because we're making his name famous. It says here, I could read it to you in the Aramaic. Right? When a person lifts up his hands in prayers, he's lifting up the spiritual hands above. And he's not doing it for nothing. In prayer, in longing and in blessing. See, so the idea of the lifting of the hands is we're blessing God. Now, we want to be modest about such a thing, because we don't want to show off, and we don't want it to look like we're showing off, because people already have enough reasons to judge us. And, in Judaism, we don't want to create more judgment. However, we have to be true. And when you raise your hands, why does Moses raise his hands to bless? Why does the Kohanim raise their hands to bless? Can't they just bless us with the words without raising their hands? Well, they could. But it's different, because when you hold out your hands like this, you're extending the energy field from your body, from your soul outward to those who are near you. And even ad kedei kach, the halacha is that if you should stand in shul at least perpendicular to, if not in front of, the Kohanim when they're going like this and blessing. You want to be in the energy shot of the spread of those hands. And so, it's a practice that we learn like everything else. When it's real, you'll know what's real. And when you're faking it, well, if you merit, you'll know you're faking it. If you don't merit, you'll think it's real and it's fake. And there are people like that too. And we have to go through all those klipot. We have to go through all those postures and those games and those, I'm a good Jew, and so I'm going to do what the book says, and that's all wonderful. That's how we get started, is to learn what to do. But after we learn what to do, we have to get in touch with a deeper place where we feel, God willing, that glory of Shabbat, the glory of creation, the glory of the Torah, the glory of the Jewish mission. And when you feel all those glories and you stand to pray and you want to lift your hands to God, you're really blessing him for being who he is. And what greater pretext to also be blessed when you bless the Creator. So Shabbat is this time of the elevation of the glory. You receive a new Shabbat soul. You need a new software package, right? It comes in, it goes out every week. And one day it's going to come in and not leave us. And that's going to be a greater day of glory than all the others. And we're waiting for that to happen soon. So God bless you all. Be yourself, your truest self with Hashem. And he knows who we are. And he knows when we're right on. And when our aim is true. And when you find that glory, that's when the tshuva is automatically accepted. And, well, who couldn't need a little bit of that, right? God bless you all. Have a wonderful Shabbat. And we'll see you next week on all the channels and all the classes. God bless.